Welcome to Build Your Maverick Business, the podcast for underdog, outlier, and renegade entrepreneurs. Brought to you by Strange Creative Studio. If you dream of going off on your own and launching your rebel empire, but don't know where to start, you're in the right place. We'll teach you how to use mindset, branding, and practical advice to build a killer business and transform your world. And now, here's your host, founder of Strange, Alex Pitt.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm ill again, for fuck's sake. I remember coming onto this podcast, I think it was like coming up for a year ago now. And I remember saying to you all like, oh, you know what? Like, oh, I've been ill this week, but that's so weird because I just don't get ill that often. I feel like the amount of times I've come on and said, I feel like shit. I jinxed it. I should never have come on, recorded, and tell you all that I don't get ill because now just seem to be an absolute bag of germs. I'm not going to lie. I know she's only little, but I do blame my niece because she's at nursery, and anyone with small kids will know that nursery is just germ heaven and they come home with the lurgy every week. So yeah, if that's the reason, then it's worth it. It's worth it. I'm not mad. I'm not mad about it. But I don't feel great, so bear with me today, all right, my darlings. You can probably hear the fact that I sound like an elephant with a knot tied in its trunk. But anyway, I want to talk to you about a bit of a mindset shift again today. You know, I love my mindset stuff because anyone who has been running their own thing for a little while will know how important mindset is to everything. It is the foundation of everything that you will build, right? When you get your head straight, everything else tends to just fall into place. So the thing I want to talk to you about this week is based in my own experience that I've had in the last few weeks where I found I lost my sparkle a little bit. Okay, I lost my sparkle and I found myself getting a little bit down in the dumps. Like, I think that there's different levels of being in your business and being a leader and feeling like things are either going very well your way or not so much. Right, you either feel like you're on a roller coaster just speeding down that slope and with your arms in the air and everything is fantastic, or you feel like you're trudging through treacle and you just are exhausted and just want to get to dry land. And I had one of those situations a little while back now where I just felt like it was trudging through treacle. Everything felt very difficult. It wasn't flowing. I had to kind of force myself to sit down. And I am very lucky that I was able to talk to my networks. I was able to talk to my friends who are also founders. And obviously, it turns out that everyone feels like this. Everyone goes through these moments where they're just like, God, it's so fucking hard. I promise you all, my loves, having gone through it many times and come out the other side, you do get through it. You do get through it. All of this shit is only temporary. So if that's you right now, right, if that is how you're feeling, first of all, nothing's gone wrong. You're fine. You are fine. I am saying that as much to myself as I am to you all. You are absolutely fine. This is all part of the process. We wouldn't appreciate the really, really fun stuff if it didn't get a little bit shit and a little bit hard sometimes. Now, I want to give you some practical advice on this, okay? Something that I found really, really worked for me when I found myself in this little rut. And actually, historically, when I look back on it, this is something that has worked. My mind does tend to focus on the negative, so I don't always remember these things when they repeat themselves, which again is something I think we're all guilty of at certain times. But no, one thing that I found really helped, and I'm going to come back to that in a bit, but the reason that I want to just like skip back a couple of steps, or I'm going to skip back, is random waves of inspiration. You know, I love those. When I was writing the notes for this episode, I had this flashback to, I don't know if anyone grew up near or in the surrounding areas of northwest London or just on the outskirts of northwest London. But I remember going to the Harlequin shopping centre in Watford. If that rings a bell for anyone, message me. We can have a little nostalgia moment together. But But I remember this is when I was very young, right? You could still smoke in this shopping centre. This is how long ago it was. I remember walking past Boots one day and it was around New Year. All right, so it's start of a new year and everyone's doing their thing that they always do, where you want to change your life, new year, new me. You want to lose weight, quit smoking, eat healthier, do this, climb Mount Snowdon, like learn 6 new languages. And what do we all know happens, right? And absolutely no judgment from me because Christ alive, do I do this as well? You make this huge list of New Year's resolutions. If, my darlings, any one of you has made it past like February 12th with this shit, congratulations, you are the elite 1% and you will outlive us all. But what tends to happen to most of us is that we try and do everything all at once, right? You try and do all of those things, try and do all of those life-altering changes, quitting smoking, trying to go to the gym more, trying to eat healthily, trying to do X, Y, and Z. And you suddenly find yourself very overwhelmed. And what happens is you don't do any of those things. Okay? Now, I relate this back to business because I will be the first person to admit that sometimes, not too often, but my God, does this come in like some kind of cycle, where I get to the point where I look at my business, I look at where I am, and I just feel very lost. Okay? You get that moment where everything feels really shit and you just kind of want to throw your business out of the window and quit. All right, now symptoms of this include avoidance, procrastination, fatigue, getting a bit snappy, whether it be at your team, at your family, whether you're just being a dickhead to yourself. And in the worst case scenario, you can get to that point where you start wondering if maybe you're not cut out for this. Maybe you shouldn't be running a business. You know, I've tried it and this isn't happening and I'm not where I want to be. You just want to throw it all out of the window. Now, one solution that I call it a solution, one place that my fucking mind goes sometimes, is that I decide I want to overhaul everything in the same way that kind of like New Year's resolution thing comes in where you just want to, well, I want to change my life. So I want to change my diet, my habits, my lifestyle, everything. And the reason that I was talking about Boots and being in the Harlequin is that Boots ran this campaign years and years ago. I was a child. Like I say, this is when you could smoke in the Harlequin. And the campaign that they ran was called Change One Thing. All right? Change one thing. Because the studies that they were using to back this up was that, yes, you want to change everything. Yes, you want to change your life. You want everything to be a million times better than it is. But that's not how human brains work. Okay, we still have so many things to do day to day. And if you try and change everything at once, the chances are it's not going to happen. You're going to overwhelm yourself. And when everything doesn't work out because you're trying to do so many things at once, then you just make yourself feel even fucking worse. You make yourself feel like a failure and you get really mad. And then it just adds into that shit that you're telling yourself about how you're not cut out for this. And that's not where we want to be. Okay, so change one thing is a really, really healthy way to look at your business if you're not feeling as great about it as you wish you did. So if any of those symptoms that I read out earlier, so avoidance, procrastination, fatigue, etc., if you feel like you're in that place, again, I have to really hammer home that is not permanent. This is something that everyone goes through, and not just every now and then and suddenly you make millions and everything is great and you run off into the sunset. This is going to be cyclical. This is going to keep happening. So one thing that I really, really suggest that you do is change one thing. I didn't even mean to repeat myself then, but hey, that worked out nicely. So rather than think, okay, this isn't working out for me, I am just shit at this, I want to throw everything out of the window and start again, I really encourage you to just think, if there is one thing that I can change in my business that would make a huge difference to the day-to-day way that I show up, not even the running, don't get bogged down in strategy and how you are relating to all of these very detail-oriented things. I want you to really focus on you and the way that you are showing up. Because at the end of the day, you are your business, especially if you are in the early stages, which this podcast is for people who are at the early stages. They are either a solopreneur or they have a very small team, or you might not have even started yet. You might just be thinking about it. So this isn't for people who have got loads and loads of people that they can filter down to, right? This is for when you are the golden goose in your business and it starts and ends with you. And if you don't show up in your best way, then shit goes wrong. You're not going to get the results that you want. So when I say change one thing, I'm going to tell you how this worked out for me, how it played out for me when I found that I wasn't showing up in the way that I wanted to, when I was just being a little bit groggy, when I was just a little bit grumpy all of the fucking time. It was the simplest thing. And that thing was, I reduced my hours that I worked a day down by 1 hour. Just 1 hour. And I went out for a walk. Right, I know it sounds really fucking simple, and I'm not saying that this is the solution to all of your problems. But the reason that this works so well for me is because I had a lot of shit going on in my mind from the past where I thought that bum in seat equals loads of money. But what was actually happening was that I was strangling my own brain, right? I am a creative person. I like to come up with concepts. I like to come up with ideas. And in sitting in a seat and reading article after article on LinkedIn, I was not giving my brain the freedom to do that. And that had a trickle-down effect. So I wasn't able to show up as the strongest leader because I was just getting a bit grouchy. Okay. So that's just my way of doing things. Like, that was just the one thing that I changed that I found had a really monumental effect on how everything else ran in my business, giving myself that creative freedom, just 1 hour of walking around the park so that I could free up my mind and feel better. But for you, you might already have a flexible schedule where you don't have to think about that, right? You might already start your day by walking around in nature. You might have a business where you take a lot of your calls walking around. That might not be the thing that needs to happen for you. But what I wonder is, can you eliminate one task, right? Change up one day in your working week. If you're burnt out, can you make it so that you go to a co-working space with people who feel like you do or that have similar lifestyles that you do, so that you just have that injection of energy? Can you trim off 1 hour of your working day? Can you introduce one new event a month, like going to a gallery or spending more time with your family, even if it's just for a few hours? Doing one thing that gets you into culture that you really enjoy. Or even just automate or outsource one task that you really find draining, that sucks the life out of you. Now, if your business isn't working and you're miserable, I get that this might be a little bit irritating to hear, and it might be a bit of a band-aid for a bullet hole kind of a situation. So please do not think that I'm suggesting that going to the Tate once a month is going to keep you out of debt. I hope that you know in listening to this podcast that I am far more practical than that. But you really need to accept that if you are at this stage, the stage that I described where you're just starting out, you are just starting to build, you are the biggest asset in your business. You are that golden goose, the glue that holds it all together, and you need to protect your energy. If you don't, you run the risk of giving up, burning out, or even just losing that love and that spark you have for this thing that you've built or that you're building. And that in itself is a huge fucking tragedy. What is the point in doing this if you hate it? So the reason I implore you to just change one thing is I know you're busy. I know you have a lot on, which is why I'm just suggesting little upgrades, okay? These tiny little upgrades to lift your spirits and make you enjoy that day-to-day a little bit more. All right, my loves, I'm going to go hit the night nurse. You have a wonderful week. Find that little upgrade that's going to make you feel 5% better day to day. And I'll catch you here next time.
Got an idea for a Maverick business of your own? Learn how to build a powerful brand that will get people obsessed with our online program, not just a pretty logo. You'll learn a simple step-by-step framework that will kickstart your killer brand and help you find your raving fan base. Find out more today at strangecreativestudio.com.